Do your research and then head to Humboldt Motor Sales. The atmosphere is relaxing and they'll help you find the pre-owned vehicle of your dreams. So when people ask where you got your ride, the answer is simple. Humboldt Motor Sales or online at HumboldtGM.com.
It's Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
60 rounds of freedom at all times. I like to keep that going. And our guest here is Joe Coleman, who is a deacon in the Catholic Church and an attorney. How are you, Joe?
I'm well, Michael. How are you today?
I'm very well. The weather affects my mood, and today's a perfect day. I tell you, I'm just a crabby sucker in January and February. I'll tell you, you don't even want to be around me. I don't even want to be around myself. Day like this, everyone is beautiful.
That's wonderful. That's a great way to be.
Yeah.
That is a great way to be. Hey, Mike, before we get started today, could I just throw out a quick shout out, please?
Of course.
I would like to encourage everyone, all of our listeners, to tune in Saturday to the Holy Trinity Parish website and enjoy the dedication of the new church. The bishop is going to be there, and there will be a lot of ritual and ceremony. Things that you will never see again in your lifetime will happen during this liturgy. It's very beautiful, and it is happening in a setting that is absolutely gorgeous. I can't wait to show you the church, Mike.
Well, I'm excited as well. It's been going on for we've been waiting for quite a while now. When is the first Mass, the first public? I understand this is a dedication. There will be a Mass with it, but when is the first Mass that people can go to?
The next day.
The very next day.
Yep.
Okay. Sunday. All right.
That is Sunday. Yes.
All right.
Corpus Christi is going to have the last Mass at Corpus Christi on Saturday night, and then Sunday Masses will be held in the new parish church.
You know, I'm real sorry to see Corpus Christi Church go. I was sorry to see Holy Rosary go, and Sacred Heart as well. Certainly, Corpus Christi. My son got married there. It's a beautiful old church. It's one of the oldest churches in the state of Iowa. They called it the Spanish Church for a while. The Spanish-speaking people, were they the main congregants there for a while, or do you know that history?
You know, I'm not sure that I can answer that history, but I'll have an answer for you next week. The church itself is the oldest parish in the diocese, although some would argue that St. Patrick's on the Lizard was the first, but I think Corpus Christi gets the call.
St. Patrick's is no longer there, right?
That is correct. It was the church was sold to a gentleman who moved it off the premises, and but of course the cemetery is still there.
Here's a little trivia for folks, whether they want it or not. My great-great-grandfather was John Francis Devine, and he immigrated to this country in 1850. I believe he was having trouble with the Orangemen. And he moved to a farm in the Laverne, Livermore area after living in Boston for a short time. And the very first Catholic Mass in this part of the state was held in his living room in 1851. Now, there is some real Catholic trivia for you.
That is. And you know, the funny thing about that is there is a family at Clare called the Griffins family who claim that they had the first Mass held in the Diocese of Sioux City, the future Diocese of Sioux City, in their home as well. And that was the condition of the state at that time. Priests were much like circuit judges, you know.
Yeah.
They were riding their horses from family home to family home and holding Mass, and the neighbors would come in, and I can't imagine how tough that must have been.
Oh, wow. This is way before microwave ovens, I'll tell you. Way before air conditioning, running water. I mean, the pioneers were truly exceptional people, I'll have to say. Truly exceptional.
They were a tough breed.
Boy,
Absolutely.
they were. they're called deplorables now, and they're racism and all sorts of things is being hung around their neck. But I'm repulsed by those who accuse us of, or the pioneers of that sort of thing.
Well, those pioneers gave birth to the greatest generation.
They certainly did. They my dad was John Francis's grandson, of course. And he was part of that whole thing. He served in the Second World War. He was awarded the Purple Heart twice. I should say he was awarded the Purple Heart with an oak leaf cluster, which means there were 2 wounds.
Exactly.
And it was an exceptional generation. And those people were mainly motivated not by social justice, but by real justice. And by that I mean they believed in their faith in a God and in an afterlife. And it's quite a different thing. You cannot instill morality with political lecturing. It just can't be done.
Well, now you sound like George Bernard Shaw.
Well, he was an Englishman, as I recall, or was he Irish? I don't remember. I don't know. But yeah.
But he was the famous phrase, I believe you can't legislate morality. The problem comes that the concept of democracy demands the highest degree of morality from its citizenship.
Yes.
It really does, in so many things. Not only in just obeying the small laws with the big laws, but by voting, by paying your taxes, by being a good neighbor, by helping out those who are less fortunate. I mean, a high degree of morality in a democracy.
Mm-hmm. You know, to be an Irish Catholic when I was young and when you were young meant that you were automatically a member of the Democratic Party. You know what I mean.
I know.
People remember another Joe Coleman, who was certainly an Irish Catholic. That is not the truth anymore. And someday we'll talk about that. Someday we'll talk about how the Catholics of the world separated from the Democratic Party. I don't know if they separated or were kicked out. But I do know a man up in Algona by the name of Joe Bradley was a very faithful Catholic and a successful businessman. He ran Robert F. Kennedy's Iowa campaign for the Democratic nomination in 1968. And 4 years later, he left the Democratic Party very publicly over the issue of abortion. But and that's always and we're going to kind of talk about abortion in a roundabout way here in just a minute. But what I really would like to talk about, of course, is the passing of Associate Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg and the opening that there now is on the Supreme Court. Now, this is going to be a pitched battle like we've never seen, pitched political battle. There may be violence in the streets. I was talking with Pastor Austin Hill of the Presbyterian Church earlier this morning, and I have no idea what Christians or Catholics are supposed to say in response to this occurrence, because the one thing the Democrats will not have is a practicing Catholic on the Supreme Court. Not in this day and age. I know there have been Catholics in the past. There have been a lot of Catholics. As a matter of fact, there were 6 Catholics and 3 Jews on the court for a while. But in this day of age, the Catholic Church is the one staunch opponent to abortion, and the Democrats can't abide that. They will not abide a Catholic on the court. Amy Barrett Comey, from what I understand, is an outstanding candidate, but she's a devout Catholic, so we might as well forget about her. What do you have to say about this? Now, you've been around a little while. What do you have to say about this?
Well, first of all, one of the things I love visiting with you about over the airwaves is our views about things. Mm-hmm. And I'm troubled by the fact that most people believe that you can't be a Catholic and be a Democrat. I don't accept that.
I didn't say that either, Joe. I didn't say that. There are plenty of people who identify as Catholic or Democrat. But you will admit that the moral positions of the Democratic Party and the Catholic Church are different, very different.
Oh, they are. They are. And the moral positions of the Catholic Church and some of the tenets of the Republican Party are also at odds.
It's the old Democrat coming out in you here, Joe.
No. What I mean by that is this whole, I believe, this whole concept of pro-life. In order to be pro-life, that isn't just about abortion. It's also got to wend its way into capital punishment. It also has to wend its way into equal justice before the law. It also has to wend its way into fair wages and fair pay. I know we were going to talk about rerum novarum at some point in the next week or so, but there's a whole. This stuff isn't simple in the sense that, one size fits all. And if you're a Republican, you're bad, or if you're a Democrat, you're bad. If you're a liberal, it just doesn't work that way. But you know what? That's what our culture likes to have. Simple, soundbite solutions to complicated problems. John Kennedy had it right when he says, any fool can tell you what the problem is. What I want to surround me with is the guys that can provide answers.
Okay. And who would that be?
So, well, back to the Supreme Court and Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She was, in all fairness, full disclosure, she was a little too liberal for me.
Yeah.
Especially in the area of reproductive rights.
Well,
but as you and I talked about, not in the area of gender equality, I didn't have any problem with her positions on gender equality because I think it is a hard row to hoe if you say that we have to make distinctions before the law between men and women in terms of how the law views them personally.
Well, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a Jewish woman, and of course, Judaism is our founding faith. Jesus Christ was a Jew.
Most conservatives, by the way, don't realize that.
Well, then they don't know much, do they?
Well, that's the conclusion I'll let the audience draw.
Well, I should do that as well, but that would be my conclusion. I mean, if you don't know that Jesus was referred to as Rebbe when he walked on earth, which is rabbi or teacher, if you will, then and you call yourself a Christian, I don't know where you went to, but anyway.
You missed it.
yeah, you missed the whole thing. So there's a number of scenarios, where abortion can be portrayed as horrible. There's a number of cases out there where abortion is understandable. Rape, incest, all these things are just awful. And I'm not the type, and I know you're going to disagree with him, which is fine. But there has to be a point somewhere where the violence of an act of rape or incest gives a woman special dispensation, to use an old phrase from the church.
Sure.
What do you think? I know
let me ask the obvious question. What about the baby?
I understand that. I knew you were going to ask that question, and I'm there with you. I'm there with you, to which I'm going to respond. We need to balance the life of the child against the life of the mother. And the emotional damage that will certainly occur if she's forced to give birth to the child of a rapist. Now, I've seen other people come forward and say, I'm the child of rape, and I am so glad that my mother did not use abortion as a choice. But there are women who would make another decision. This is a very complex moral issue. And absolutely. And anybody
anybody who thinks that women should not, just like men, have a say over what goes on in their body between them and their doctors, I think they're missing it. But that only goes so far. And the problem, as it always ultimately is what is the result of the action? And I always hate to come back to this concept, but you're just going to be stuck with me, Mike, for as long as we're together. If actions promote disorder, as a general proposition, most of the time they're inherently wrong. If they promote order, as a general proposition, most of the time they're inherently right. The idea being, again, that the Creator is the author of order.
And order is the goal?
Order is the symptom of the majesty of the Creator. The Creator is always the goal. Having the Creator be a repository for our spiritual self.
Because the People's Republic of China would say that they're in favor of order, you know.
That is true. But, you know, there's a difference between order with the small o and order with the large O.
Okay.
And then we get back to Rerum Novarum.
Yes.
You know, when Pope Leo XIII issued that encyclical before the turn of the century, it was an absolute stand in the face of unbridled capitalism. And you and I have talked about this before. Capitalism in and of itself that has a social democratic aspect to it, wonderful. Socialism that is Darwinian in its nature, dog eat dog, only the fittest survive. The church is opposed to that and always has been.
Well, I've mentioned before that Glenn Beck, another talk show host, who I'm not a great admirer of, by the way, we used to carry him on this radio station, and I practically insisted he be injected after he went on the air on this radio station and radio stations around the country and said, the Pope Francis is a Marxist. Pope Francis' positions are straight out of Marx. And this is from a former Catholic, Glenn Beck, who is now a Mormon. I don't even know what the guy thinks. But to say that Pope Francis, and to my mind, Pope Francis is a little bit on the left edge, but he is preaching traditional Catholic social justice. That's what he is.
Absolutely. If you think Jesus Christ wasn't a little bit on the left edge, you haven't read the New Testament.
Thank you very much. So I always kind of challenge my free marketeers, my free market people, and frankly, they don't want to hear about religion.
Well,
the free market is their religion. So okay.
Yeah, no, and how insightful that is. The one of the words that is used the most and is talked about the most in the New Testament by the Lord is money.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. All right.
Don't you think? Yeah, go ahead. We've got a break. I know.
Yeah, we got a break. Joe Coleman's our guest. And we'll be back.
It's the Fall Harvest of Savings Radio Auction Tuesday, September 22nd from 2 till 5. Thousands of dollars worth of items will be from 20 to 60% off. We're talking about stuff from your favorite stores, stuff for your home, stuff for your car, stuff just for fun, and plenty of stuff for your belly.
I'm so full.
For a complete list of our auction items, log on to yourfortdodge.com. Don't miss the Fall Harvest of Savings Radio Auction Tuesday, September 22nd from 2 till 5 on your favorite Alpha Media station.
You're listening to AM 1400 KVFD.
I'm Dave Ramsey. Join me every Monday through Friday afternoon from 5 to 8 p.m. on AM 1400 KVFD Fort Dodge.
The battle for the battlegrounds heats up. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. President Trump heading to Ohio to hold 2 events as the Democratic nominee campaigns in Wisconsin, hitting the incumbent on a number of issues.
A masked Joe Biden in a campaign stop at a Union aluminum plant in Manitowoc led his speech with coronavirus deaths.
You can't let the numbers become statistics and background noise.
Biden accusing President Trump of not acting sooner. He brought up the president's tax returns and said the president would bankrupt Social Security.
Go home and tell your mom and dad. Say goodbye to Social Security who worked for their whole lives.
It's the former vice president's second trip to Wisconsin in 2 years. After skipping the DNC in Milwaukee, President Trump and Vice President Mike Pence were in Wisconsin last week. Pence makes a return on Thursday.
Fox's Jeff Manasso, before leaving for his trip this afternoon, the president predicting victory in November, emphasizing enthusiasm among supporters, also telling reporters he's